Hi, this is the technical video that comes with the two videos on the Designer, Lumira 2.0 Designer application on product performance. My name is Iver van Zand, SAP Global Analytics. And the reason for setting up the performance dashboard was basically my blog that you see on the screen right now, which talked about interoperability. So how well do Lumira 2.0 Discovery, the data exploration module, work together with Lumira 2.0 Designer, the module for enterprise professionalized dashboarding. And that blog talks about a number of use cases that most of them I used to build the application. So tuning your dashboard, I use that use case a bit less. That's primarily meant to use Designer to make your discovery storyboards look better. You can do that, but I especially focused on combining various storyboards as a source for a new authored Designer application. So I'm going to explain you how I did that. So that all comes down to really professionalizing a dashboard so that you are able to, I would say, win your end users. Yeah, I'm convinced that you can only win a big audience of end users if you have a dashboard that is top notch, that is easy to use, that brings full functionality, and that brings a great user experience, meaning looks very, very good. The governance hurdle, I'll discuss that briefly, going to HANA, but especially you will see a number of more advanced techniques that make life for an end user way more easy. One of the things I extensively tested was the blending and data connection challenge. So by using various storyboards from different data sets with different data grains, so different detail levels, I combined and blended those data sets together in Discovery, and I wondered how how well that can be used in Designer. Well, I can already tell you that works very, very well. I will show you, and applying some templates. So the core data that I used was various sets of data, but the core data has this structure. Over here you see it in Excel. I've used it as as from within Excel, but I also put a piece of it in HANA, and I combined both in my dashboard. So it has regions, countries, cities, product, sales channels. Then there was of course a date, year, quarter, month, and a whole variety of metrics, sales, forecast last year, well, a number of other metrics, but most of the metrics I calculate in my dashboard, and I also have long lat coordinates. One of the other data sources I use is some sample data I created regarding market growth. So complete other grain. It's only at the year and country level. I have some indicators about the growth of the market, the population, all fact data, the population growth, all looked up on the internet. These are the exact figures. Also the adoption rate and the average age of the people living in that country. So these two data sets were blended, not joined, but blended and used as a source in SAP Designer. So I started from within Lumira 2.0 Discovery, which you see over here. So I called it input to sales DB. And one of the first lessons I learned, you will see that I hardly did any fine tuning over here. I just brought in the data. I enriched it with a number of hierarchies that I could reuse. There are some groupings here and there. I made a number of formulas that I wanted to test whether they were reused in Designer well. And I made a number of different storyboards. One of the things I can already mention, a tip that I gave to you, if you want to use a real big amount of visualizations in your Designer application, I'd advise you to split them over different storyboards. That's easier to work with in Designer than splitting them over a whole bunch of pages. Yeah, so I kept the number of pages as small as I could, mostly one page, but I just created a big amount of storyboards. In the storyboards, I also, in a few cases, tested, for example, in a Pareto case, with winning calculations, like you see over here on different timelines, so moving averages, so winning totals, that stuff, to see whether designer picks that up well. Over here, I did another example where I work with a difference from calculation, an extended calculation that you can create in Discovery that automatically calculates the difference from a previous period, whether you define it as a quarter, month, or a day, or whatsoever. So all kinds of those scenarios that I brought in. Over here in spread, you see the blending that I used. So if I open up one of these visualizations, even using animation to see whether that was picked up in Design Studio, you see that I used a blending over here. You can see this and this symbol. So I used two data sets. This one, the second Excel sheet, and this one that I've put in HANA and in Excel in both ways. So combining those, not joining, but blending them. So this was a little bit an overview of what I used as different sources to start up in Designer. I will quickly show you the application. I refer to the other videos where you can see the full application working. So this is the landing screen with everything using conditional formatting. So I set threshold arbitrarily. When colors need to change, I try to limit the number of colors a little bit to 5 or 6 base colors, so black and green, as you can see. A nice background picture focusing on interactivity, so the user can tick over here these pick boxes. And I also brought in interactivity by creating drop downs that are all cascaded. Yeah, so as you can see over here, if I use 2015 and I choose Q1, you will see that the month cascade only to month 1, 2, and 3. For example, if I go to the white interactivity panel, if I choose the continent Americas, you will see that the countries limit to countries that reside in either North or South America. And if I change that, the countries reside to either European countries. Again, the interactivity makes that I can bring this back. Also, other pieces of interactivities are the fact that if you tick over here, like Asia, then these arrows come up that compare the performance to the same performance in the previous month, using some variables and calculations to do so. And depending on the result of the calculation, I decide to either visualize a green or red button. And if you tick over here, it also comes with an additional graph that shows the performance of forecast and budget performance over the month. All the icons are clickable, so over here you can open a self-service application. Over here it brings you to a specific page. This goes to my personal website, ivervanzand.com. This goes to the geospace. Well, you can see over here. Plus I did a clear all filters. At any moment in time I can clear all my filters. And over here I did an export. There was still some work to do. I need to do an export to PDF, for example, a print button and a home button. And you can navigate through the pages by clicking one of these styles. For example, I could click the key metric style. Then it brings me to the first page, which is all pagebook driven. Over here you see some stuff with all the KPIs, again using conditional formatting. Let's look into Designer 2.0 right now. Over here this is Discovery. Over here you see the application, and if I go to documents, then you see that the moment that I start creating this input to sales DB in Discovery, the moment that I open Designer, it automatically creates this folder, and it shows all arrow till waterfall, all the different storyboards that I created in Discovery. Yeah, so basically you see only when you start up these blue ones, and what you can do is right click and create an application. And what I've done, I used the basic layout to start creating my layout. So first step is basically to have a look at your layout. So if I tick the outline button and we have a look a bit more in detail about my layout, then I choose the background picture over here. Some tips regarding the background to specifically explain to you is the following. What I learned: if you want to add a specific image, so imagine that I add another one, then you need to watch out for the following. If you want to upload an image, like you can do over here, bear in mind that the images that you upload need to respect a certain area of dimensionality. I tend to use this one, or 1400 times 900. If you choose 640 times 480, it does not work. So I had some issues in the beginning with that. So watch out for that. Okay. And what I did is, of course, create a header page with the different icons, and the icons have, depending on what I want them to do, on click events. For example, the drop downs are opened over here using a panel. So I just create an on click event, creating up the panel. And like I do to clear the filters, I use other on click events. So you can see the icons over here. There's a whole list that you can choose from. You can simply search by name if you are looking something for browsing, for example. If you tick the type in browse, you see quite quickly an icon that is referring to browsing, and you can use that. So as said, when starting with the application, I started with the template, and where you basically focus on is setting up a good grid layout for your header, but also for your content. Yeah, for the content, there's basically all this area that I can do whatever with I want during my application, and the header is, as you can see with the highlighting, is this top area where I put in all my interactivity. Yeah, so based on the grid, I tend to create cells. Cells are very easy to use for positioning and aligning your elements and all your objects that you use. Over here you see the different arrows that I create. So the little trick with the arrows is that I create a green and a wet one, and I make them invisible, as you can see over here. So they cannot be seen. Only the moment that I run a certain calculation on an on-click event, then I activate them if I want to. Yeah, so I activate the wet or the green one whenever I want. So over here you have my arrow number 1, green and wet, and this is 2, green and wet, and I just activate them whenever I want during my application. Most of the activation is driven by the radio button groups. So what I do is that I use a variable that I set up in my core application all from the beginning. So I've set up over here some variables. Here's where you see them, layer and level, for example, and I tend to use them during my application. Again, coming back, most of the activities are driven in the header group, as far as I can say, are driven by the radio button groups. So every time there's an on click, I activate a certain activity that drives either the elements over here. As you can see, the chart elements are picked up from Discovery, and I will now explain you how that is working. So the moment that you're ready to bring in your first chart, for example, this measure over here, what you do is you go to your documents, and for example, you open the story that is of interest to you. So if I double click that, here you can see that story, and if I now tick one of the graphs, activate my property, you can see that it is referred to as DS11 in this chart. So what it does, every visualization automatically gets created its own personal data sources. One of the things you really need to watch, and this is a big advice, is that every visualization automatically gets data sources that are named as DS1 till a number that comes next to it, DS1, DS2, DS whatever. So what you typically do is the first time you want to select these and copy them and bring them into your personal application so that you have the data sources. But if you do that for all visualizations, it's every time it's DS1 to DS9. So what I do typically is rename them to another, for example, this is a growth, and I call this one growth 1, and I do that for all the other ones. Only at that stage I copy them so that I at least know over here where they refer to. If you later on close this one, it will ask you to save. Do not do that, because you will change the sources in your discovery file. So don't do that unless you have a specific reason. So I rename them, I copy them into my core application, but I do not save the story. So the moment that you copied your data sources, you can also copy, let's pick it back. It was this one, I think. The moment that you copy them, you can also copy the visualization by just copying it and bring it into a section on your page where you want it to be. So let me create very simply a new page to show you a little bit how you could do that. So over here I have now my practice page, and let me first create a little grid, and I'm not sure whether I copied my sources correctly, but over here you can simply copy in your graph. I apparently did not copy my sources, but the moment that you copy the sources, your graph will automatically come over. Once you've done that, it gets very interesting, because the moment that you just copy in the graph, and this is just a numeric point that I copied from Discovery, you can go to the properties, and if you just click the chart configuration, it brings you to a panel that is almost identical to the one that you know from Lumira, Discovery, excuse me. So you can change the properties, you can bring in a title, or change the background color. For example, if I change that right now, you will see that it immediately affects my chart over here. And so you can do all the things you're used to do with Discovery. Before we continue to look at the page book, just one last thing, the interactive element with the drop-down boxes that you see on the top left and the top right that I can activate with these two buttons. I used panels for that, so the panels are invisible. The moment that I click over here, I activate the panels, and the drop-down boxes drive the majority of the data sources that I upfront selected. Another thing that I already like to emphasize right now is that the moment that you use stories over here that are set up by blending or joining multiple data sources, whether they are from different source types, so for example BW offline with Excel, or you blended two Excels, or you used a universe, join that with BW query whatsoever. The big advantage is that you don't have to worry in Designer anymore on how that data is joined. That's all embedded in the structure, the sources that you see over here. A next element that I'd like to highlight is if you set up conditional formatting in Discovery, for example, in the charts over here. Let me go to one of those charts. I think I'll take this one. One moment. Let's take this one. This one, for example, had conditional formatting in the Discovery chart already. That Discovery conditional formatting is respected the moment that you bring it to Designer. So as you can see over here, I can set up the conditional formatting as true. And the moment that I do that, this one is activated, which I can click. And it brings you again to a similar conditional formatting settings dialog box as you were used in Discovery, even better. It just reuses that one. So you can add new functionality over there, and it's really easy to use. You just apply it over here, and your conditional formatting in your Designer application is all done, all reused from the storyboards in Discovery. So very, very, very nicely done by SAP. Looking a little bit more at the other side of the dashboard. So the first section we discussed, the page header, the top header over here. Over here is the interactivity with the icons. The header itself, as said, two big cells with charts on it, shapes, the arrows, and especially the drop-down boxes that or radio button boxes, I should say, that drive the majority of the activities. Now let's go to the content of the page itself. So the page itself is primarily driven by one big content background over here that composes of of course, a page book. I like to work with page books instead of tabs, for example. I think it's easier to work with. You define it once, you can add as many pages as you wish, and it's a very easy way of working. So if I go to my landing page, for example, that you see over here, there's quite a bunch of text, as you can see. There are some links over there that drive certain activities, all via on-click events. And the first page with data elements on top of it is the KPI tiles section over here. And again, that all starts with a key grid layout that was defined over here as a 8 by 7 rows. You probably know the trick with the rows and the columns. Yeah, so these are the relatively differences in length. So you can make big differences between cells and smaller ones. So very easy when you play around a bit with it. And in each of one are different metrics that you can put in there. Charts, I tend to create one chart and then I copy it to another section and adjust it as needed via the data selection element, applying conditional formatting. So it's a little bit of work over here, but in the end, the result is very, very nice. And again, all these data sources from 41 till all the end over here are all driven by the interactive panels that you can set up over here. So one change over there drives all these graphs. And this is a very nice way of providing your end users with a valuable insights just on one page, providing all the metrics over there, color-coded, highlighted, and very easy to use. On the second page is some other features and functions that I wanted to highlight. Again, similar structure. So first a good, strong grid layout. And what I've done over here is I created 3 core sections indicating forecasting and budget performance. So an area chart over here and 2 line charts with these smoothen lines. That is new in Discovery right now. You can also apply it in Designer. Let me quickly have a look to the. Here you can see it, and what I've done over here, if I just open it, you can see the line smoothing button that is now new. If you go to properties and you tick line, then you see enable smoothened line over here that you now can click at the moment that you use solely line charts. Again, an on-click event over here, clicking this one drives all the different smaller growth charts over there. With these growth charts, there was something special going on. So again, as said, I will open up one. These are waterfall charts. And what it does, it was my way to test whether the extended calculations in Discovery would work. So over here you see the difference budget performance and difference forecast accuracy by month, and what it does, it also compares to the previous months. It's a difference from calculation that I created in Discovery. Well, I reuse it over here and it perfectly works, so that saves you enormous amount of time, like we've done in the past in Design Studio, creating very complex calculations with scripting. That's all gone right now. You will see in the video that these 9 tiles, these can be clicked, and the moment that you click them, a zoom panel opens. So what I did is I created a panel over here. I think it is, let me see, over here is the zoom panel, and the moment that I click this one, you see it is bigger. So it opens up a bigger screen. It only shows the tile, so that gives the effect of zooming in. There's also a help button embedded over here. So again, I will show you how that works. Here's my application, and I will go to the second page. Yes, so the help button, the moment that I click the question mark over here, it opens up a panel and it explains what is going on in the different graphs. If I click it again, it disappears. The zoom panel that I just mentioned over here are the different waterfalls, and I made an on-click event on each of the different tiles, that the moment you click it, it opens up this panel. Yeah, so it's bigger, where I reused all the graphs so that you have the idea of zooming in. If I click it again, it disappears again. The 3 graphs on the left hand side drive the content of the right hand side. So if I say I only want to have a look at Italy, I can click that one. And now I only have a look at Italy. If I control click, I have Italy and Japan. And as said, at any moment in time, I can still use these ones and say, well, I want to have a look at Italy and Japan only in Q2. And now it looks only to Q2. So this is how easy it works. Going to the next page, so this was the zoom panel. Over here I did a showcase on the chart pick, I called it. It's a page with a, as you can see over here, a chart picker that you just refer to the chart it needs to apply on, which is this overview of product with sales and budget numbers. Again, this one drives these 3 ones, but there was a special trick on this one, because the moment that you click this one, there's also a variable used over here that depending on the level where I am, drills down. So the moment I click HiFi systems, for example, or PCs, it drills down 1 level to the sales channel, whether it was sold online or whether it was sold via a shop. And the moment that I click it again, it tops a certain level, and then the moment that it reaches that barrier, it goes 1 level back, so it drills up again. That's basically what is happening in this one. This chart over here on the top bottom right side is a bullet chart that is very, very useful. One of the future plans, I will do a bit more with the bullet charts, but again, you can also make them clickable for the end user and making it easy to use. In terms of layouting, I did the background image again, which is my personal preference to use that. The ranking was basically driven by Discovery. So what I did with Discovery is I used a few times the ranking element over there, and again checked whether that was correctly brought over to Designer. Once you copy the data sources, well, I can tell you this works perfectly well. One of the things I again did was using the swap dimension function, which means that the moment that you click one of these graphs over here, the dimension that is now initially set as manager swaps to product, and when you click it again it swaps back. So that saves me from using two charts. I can do it now in one, and over here I did one for city and for I think the day and the week. Over here is the bottom ranking, so again some of the new functions and features and use cases tested. So ranking, bringing that over from discovery to designer works very well. The last one I'm going to show in this first part of the video is the growth. Again, the growth was we already discussed it, but this time I really highlighted it, was my way of sorting out whether an extended calculation in discovery, for example, a winning total, a winning sum, a difference from, for example, if you create it in discovery, that's a very nice feature, whether that could easily be reused in designer. Well, I can assure you it works perfectly well. So what it does, the difference from, it compares over here month 12 to month 11, and it says that month 12 green did way better compared to the performance in the previous month. In month 11 they did worse than in month 10. In 10 they did worse than in 9, and in 9 they did better than in 8. So it's a very nice feature. I used this graph also to combine it with something new in Designer, which I will show you. You can already see it over here. I had two charts which have cross charts filtering. So if you click these ones, they drive the other ones, of course. And you can see already in the background that there was a element over here that allows you to adjust the structure of the graphs. I will show you that. It is over here. It's a so-called panel property. As you can see, you just link it to a specific chart. And if I run the application, here it comes. You can see that I build in these two little icons over here. If I click those, it opens up the panel to change, for example, your area background. Well, you know this from discovery. I can set up the data labels, for example, say, well, I want to put them on, and they should be Georgia in orange. And if I now click again the icon, you can see that they are now available. I see, by the way, that I accidentally applied the chart properties on the right hand graph. It was meant to do it on the left hand. But anyway, if I do it on this one, we can change some others. Imagine I want to see my title over here. I click it again. And now my title is not. Okay, so far for part one. In part two, we will have a look at the other pages. Thanks for your attention.